So I'll be really quick. I'm Andrew, and this is Kate Barrett, the author of an amazing book. If you go to emailexpert.com/deliverability summit sweeps, you can have a chance of winning. I basically wanted to talk about true deliverability, and then Kate was going to take it from there. So yeah, I think yeah, we're just going to cover 2 or 3 main points. The key things. So it's a good 101 and a refresher for the others. And any of you that feel that you're deliverability experts, then hopefully the idea of true deliverability will, if it doesn't necessarily bring new things to the fore, it'll let you reframe deliverability as a wider picture. So what is true deliverability? We'll define true deliverability, and Kate will take over. So yeah, what is deliverability? Ask anyone, and they'll tell you, you're getting confused between inbox placement rates and not inbox placement rates and something else. I think deliverability is a little bit more than that. Would you agree, Kate?
Absolutely.
For me, deliverability was a made up word that we used to help bridge that gap between marketers and the technical postmaster people. And really what marketers wanted to say is my message being delivered to who I expected it to be delivered to, when I expected it to be delivered to them, and in the way that I expected it to be delivered to them. So, I think Kate can take it from here. But yeah, it involves an awful lot more than just what is my inbox placement rate. So yeah, Kate, take it away.
Thank you. So yeah, let's dig into that a little bit more, because there's so many terms and buzzwords that we all throw about all the time. And this is a really critical one, because as we all know, it doesn't matter how amazing your emails are. If they don't reach your recipient, you've got a real problem, because they're not going to see it and engage with it. So let's just do a really quick introduction. My name is Kate Barrett. I'm the founder of eFocus Marketing, and we are a specialist email marketing agency helping brands to use email more intelligently. And that is absolutely key. And that starts with your deliverability, your delivery rates, and all of those other buzzwords that we have. But it's really about understanding who your audience are, how you can deliver what they like, and then how you can successfully get it in front of them. So as Andrew mentioned, I'm also the author of the best-selling book, Intelligence, Email Marketing Isn't Dead, the Way You're Using It Is. So of course, I definitely recommend checking that out. Andrew, do you want to do your quick introduction as well for anyone who doesn't know you already?
Sure. I hate this bit. I've spent a fair few years in the business, more years than I care to remember. Started off receiver side with PO Box, offering free email addresses for people. Obviously, once a fair proportion of the UK was using them, we started blocking email, and that's really where I got into deliverability. Since then, I've worked with brands and platforms, and generally spend most of my time in the multi-tenant sender space. So if you get any of those automated warnings about what's happening in your account and stuff, I may have had something to do with how those rules got written and scripted, and when you get ticked
off. Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. So let's jump into this and let's break it down. So the 2 terms that we're talking about today are delivery and deliverability. And there's a big difference between the 2. So let's hit the first. Delivery. So this is your delivery rate, and it's very different from your deliverability, which is the next stage on. Your delivery is the first stage of those messages going out. It's the metrics that you'll see in your email service provider, and it's the number of messages that have been sent, minus your hard bounces, soft bounces, and any blocks that you've received from the ISPs. So it's how many have got through that first barrier and said, okay, we'll let your message through, but it doesn't tell you what's then happened to those messages. So it's really important to understand that you may be seeing a 98, 99% delivery rate within your ESP, but you've got to go deeper. It doesn't mean that those messages have actually got in front of your recipients. And this is where the next stage of deliverability comes in. And of course, inbox placement rate that Andrew mentioned earlier is a big part of this. So how many of those emails that were delivered actually got sent into different folders? So of course, there's the inbox where we all want to be. And let's not forget that even though some of those ISPs have now broken the inbox down into separate folders, like your promotions tab or your social tab, it's still the inbox. So we've got the inbox, then we've got the junk or spam folder, and then there is mystery door number 3 that I like to call it, where your email can in fact still go missing at that point. So your ESP has told you and been told by the ISPs that the email's got through the first barrier, but that doesn't mean it's going to go into either of those folders. So it's definitely something to be aware of there. But deliverability overall is so much more than that. It goes deeper. So yes, we want to know which inbox or junk folder that we're getting into, but also it's about how and when that email is delivered. So is it delivered in the time that you would expect it to be, or is there a delay? Is it being held by the ISPs before it's then delivered to the recipient? How does it appear in the inbox? Is it broken? Are you delivering to Outlook? I don't know if I can swear on this webinar, but let's say the bitch of the email world. It's very difficult, of course, with Outlook desktop to monitor all of those different nuances that come from it. So how's it rendering? How does it actually look? And of course, we've got dark mode now as well, mobile devices, so many different ways in which the email can be viewed. So how does it appear? And also, does it appear without any security or other warnings? So let's go into those in a little bit more detail. So accepted on time. Is it delivered in a time frame that you want it to? Now, think about this. If you've got a last minute sale happening and you want to send out an email quickly, and of course, that's one of the main benefits of email is the speed in which you can get those messages out. If it's delivered 3 days later after you've actually clicked send, that's not going to do you any good for that offer that you were giving. So we need to make sure that the ISPs are actually processing those emails and delivering them in a good time. Is it being delivered to the recipient? So is it going into their inbox, their junk folder, or is it going missing? So of course, we want to aim to reach the inbox and engage our audiences. And that's a key thing when you're talking about this second element, engagement. And again, it comes down to using email really intelligently. If you are batch and blast, sending the same thing to everyone, we all know that generally that's not going to get as higher open rate, click rate, engagement, positive engagement with those emails. So understanding what you can deliver, when you can deliver it, and of course, getting it there on time is really important to boost that engagement, and that will really help you with that inbox placement as well. And like we said, without any glitches or warnings. Now, how many of you have ever opened your email and it comes up with a warning saying, we think this sender might be a spam sender. We think this sender doesn't have SSL, for example. So in Google, having that additional, TSL, not SSL, having that additional security. So that's the little padlock that you see in Gmail. If you've got a red padlock, that's not good. And particularly where we've seen trust in email, in some cases eroding because of phishing and spoofing scams, if you have these warnings coming up, it doesn't endear that trust that the email is actually from you. And there are, of course, lots of ways that you can do this. So when you're looking at those technical aspects, making sure that all of your back-end technicalities are there and in place is really important. So your SPF record, your DKIM record, and then moving through to things like adding DMARC and BIMI. Now, to add those things, you need to have the basics in place. Your SPF and your DKIM should be right. They need to be matching. You need to have all those elements in place. I've certainly seen clients who have gone ahead with implementing DMARC and not done the proper due diligence beforehand, not checked that everything is aligning in the background. And of course, as soon as you set that DMARC record to fail, if something doesn't align, you can actually end up sending all of your own emails to the recipient's junk folder. So make sure that all of your technicalities are in place so that you have that basic trust that's there. They can then go on to open your email and hopefully engage. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you've got your hard bounces, which we all know are those permanent errors. The email address doesn't exist, or your soft bounces. So there's a temporary error in getting that email through to your recipients. Your emails might also be blocked by those receiving ISPs. So they're saying, nope, we're not even going to let you through that first barrier. Something we don't like is happening. So it could be a high complaint rate. It could be that your technical settings aren't quite right, and it's starting to kick that out. It's usually around sender reputation, and I'm going to talk to you about that in just a moment. But certainly look at those bounce codes, those SMTP error codes coming back from your ESP, and break that down into your hard bounces, your soft bounces, and those where the receiving ISPs have said, nope, we're not letting this email through. And there's generally an explanation message that helps a little bit to identify whether it's a technical error, whether it's a sender reputation error that's stopping you from getting your emails delivered in that first instance. And of course, we also have another type of blocking. So we used to call them blacklists, but we are not doing that anymore. We are renaming them as block lists. So these are where specific providers, such as Spamhaus, for example, put you onto their list as saying, you're naughty, something hasn't been quite right there. And there are many ISPs that see those block lists and then will make their delivery decisions based on that. So you need to make sure that you are analyzing not only what you get back from your ESP, but also keeping a regular monitor on whether you're on any block lists. All of these elements tell you if there are a problem, if there are problems happening within your email program. Now, of course, when you get to that stage that you're on a block list or your emails are being blocked by the ISPs, something has compounded. And we need to make sure that we're not leaving our programs until they get to this point, that we're really understanding what goes into delivery and deliverability and the in-depth workings of each of those. Now, this all sounds very complicated, and it is an art. You know, I do deliverability audits for my clients all the time, and there are regular things that I see coming back. For example, your complaint rate. Complaints are a negative metric in terms of engagement, and one of the main ones that those ISPs are looking at. And it's also a metric that you can see in your ESP where you're signed up for feedback loops and where those feedback loops are available. Now, if your complaint rate starts to go up and your negative engagement is going up, that's not good for your delivery and deliverability. But more importantly, it's telling you something is missing in terms of your strategy and how you're communicating with people. So it's all about using email intelligently and really understanding what people want from you, when they want it, and then how you can get that delivered to them. So your sender reputation is like your online credit score, and it's a metric that shows how good you are as a sender. And it's made up of many different elements. It's made up of the technical elements that we've talked about, but it's also made up of that engagement. So we always want to be trying to maximize positive engagement and minimize negative. Now, that probably sounds familiar because that's what you're trying to do as a business anyway. You're trying to get people engaged with what you're sending, clicking through to see your offers, your information, watch your videos, whatever that action is. So it's really important not just to get your emails in front of people, but ensure on an ongoing basis that it's what they want. Okay, so really think about your underlying strategy. Again, whenever I'm doing these deliverability audits for clients, there is never a silver bullet. There isn't one thing that you can change that's going to fix your problems. Unless, of course, you've turned DMARC on and everything's not aligned, in which case turn it off until you've gone through the proper process to do that. And that will help immediately. But there's not really a silver bullet. It really is about your ongoing strategy, how you talk to your subscribers, and how you make them feel. So how can we get to the inbox? How can we make sure that that message actually is received? We need to think about all of these elements. I've got a great free image in my blog on my website. If you head over to e-focusmarketing.com, go onto the blog and you'll see a deliverability decision tree, which lists out some of these elements. And if you're having a problem with them, where to go to next. So that might be quite helpful for anyone who's not sure what's going on, or you're seeing a lot of issues happening and you're not sure why. And of course, when we're thinking about sender reputation, we also have to remember that not only is it different for every ISP, they will take that information in a slightly different way. They all have their own algorithms. But not only that, we have an overall reputation and then an individual recipient reputation. So if many of your Gmail subscribers aren't opening your emails, they're not engaging with them, but one in particular, one person is, they may see something different from everyone else receiving those Gmail emails, because it is certainly down to that individual reputation as well. And of course, we mentioned those block lists. And they're not all equal. Not every ISP will look at every single block list. Some block lists have much more persuasive power than others do. But if you're on any block list, it's telling you there's an issue. There's something not right. And you've got to be the detective here and find out what that is. Is it the quality of the data that you're bringing in? Is it the way you've generated that data? Is it around people complaining about your emails? Is it to do with the content of your emails? There's lots of different ways that this can really be triggered. So this is where it really comes down to understanding your audience, as I've already said. And true deliverability is more than just reputation, but reputation is an absolute key factor. Every sender is assigned that reputation. And as I said, it can differ between all of those different vendors. So go back to the beginning, understand how people join your program, understand what it is that they need. How are you segmenting your list? How are you personalizing your emails? How are you triggering emails at the right time to the right person? And even with those manual sends that you absolutely still need to do, can you include perhaps a piece of dynamic content that makes it much more relevant to that individual person? Can you provide individual product recommendations that change for every person depending on their behavior or depending on what they've asked you for or what they've bought from you? So really breaking this down and understanding the difference, this is 101, but it's really great to have that groundwork in place so that you can really understand where you've got to focus in to get that right. So many times I hear, it's my ESP, they're not delivering my emails, it's their fault, they need to fix this. And I've got to tell you from my experience, 5% or so, absolutely, is down to how fast those emails are sending, how many connections are opened when they're sending. But 95% of it, in my opinion, is absolutely down to your data quality and your email strategy. So whilst you're working on that overall, always know that that's going towards your deliverability, your reputation, and therefore helping you get to the inbox and in front of those subscribers. So we've talked about a few of those elements that really make up how your email might be judged by those recipient mail servers. And we talked about how it's all down to your sender reputation, which is like your credit score of who you are. Now, there are different ways in which this credit score, this sender reputation, can be made up. So the first, and the one that we've known about for years and years, is your IP address, okay? So you need to think about your technical setup. Are you using shared IPs where it's shared between many different senders? And that can have benefits if you're a low volume sender, for example, because volume is one of the elements that makes up sender reputation. So by grouping together with other senders, you can build that element. But of course, by grouping with other senders, you may also take on any of the negatives that they generate as well. So it can absolutely have an impact on what you're doing, and you can have an impact on them. So there are positives and negatives to shared IPs. Dedicated IPs, if you have a high enough send volume, so I always recommend that my clients are sending about 100,000 emails a week before we look at that dedicated IP, so that you've got enough sending to build that reputation. If the receiving ISPs don't see enough, they can't build that score for you. So it's really important. But dedicated IPs, it's all down to you. If you do something bad, you're going to impact yourself. If you do something good, you're going to impact yourself. So your deliverability is completely controllable by you. Now, what we have now, of course, over the last few years is domain reputation as well. So this is your from domain, your reply to domain, how your bounces are handled. It's all taken into account. And domain reputation is a holistic across the internet as well. So if you're using your main company domain for your marketing emails, as well as your one-to-one emails, as well as your website, that can really have an impact. Because if you see something that's happening with your marketing emails, for example, your complaint rate is increasing, that could actually impact your one-to-one company messages. So make sure that you're using a separate domain or a subdomain of your main account to ensure that you can build a reputation for your messages going forward. And of course, you may also think about how you might want to split your different email types over those as well, if you have enough volume to separate your transactional and your marketing emails. And of course, you've got your sender overall. And different senders will have different reputations, and this goes across your domains and your IPs. Your reputation isn't fixed. It's different from vendor to vendor, as we say, but it's something that you should be continuously working on. And if you're working on your email strategy, if you're looking at how you can better engage and better serve your audience, not just with sales messages, but being helpful and inspirational, this is all going to go towards helping your sender reputation. Now, a bad reputation can be repaired. No reputation, you've got to start from scratch. So you have to think about things like an IP and a domain warm-up. But you can always move forward. You can always change your reputation, and you can always work on making it better. So with that, focus on your list hygiene. Think about those hard bounces, particularly so your unknown users. If you've got a high level, look at your data collection techniques. Look at your complaint rates. Where is something going wrong in your strategy from the point at which they sign up to the point at which they unsubscribe? Is there a certain data list that generates more complaints? Is there a certain campaign that generates more complaints? Think about those elements and really try and boost your positive engagement. So to wrap up, some of those key elements that are really going to help you here. Start with your email authentication. Make sure that you've got that technical setup, that infrastructure right to begin with, and then really understand how are you generating that data? How have people consented to what you're going to send them? And on an ongoing basis, how do you keep that list as clean as possible? And of course, how can you deliver value? How can you increase your positive engagement, decrease your negative engagement in both the metrics you can see, so your open rate on a positive side and your complaint rate on a negative side? They're the main two that you're going to see in your ESP. But of course, there are hidden metrics behind that. How many emails were forwarded? How are they moved to different folders within the inbox? And of course, make it really easy to unsubscribe. Don't hide the unsubscribe, because you will certainly increase your complaint rate by doing that. So engage your audience and keep them alive with your messages, and it will all go towards your delivery and your deliverability. But remember, also check when that email is being received, how it's being received, how does it look, because that could have a negative impact on engagement if it doesn't look right. So every single aspect that you can see in the inbox and when you open that email goes towards creating true deliverability. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. I hope that was helpful to give you a grounding. And of course, if you want to talk to Andrew or I about any of these things, you can find us on all of the socials.
Thank you so much, Kate. Kate's amazing. She only got that presentation a few hours ago. And do a far better job of it than someone who's practiced it 2 or 3 times already. So I can't thank you enough. I have got Alice waiting in the other studio, so I'm going to have to dip out of here and dip into that. But everyone stay exactly where you are, because we have the equally amazing Alice Cornell following up from this session. I can't thank you enough, Kate. And again, guys, there's a couple of opportunities to get Kate's book. You can get a real softback copy by actually entering the sweepstakes, which are at emailexpert.com/deliverability summit sweeps. And also in there is a survey for there's a survey for Scott Hardigree in there, and if you complete that, you will automatically get a copy of Kate Barrett's book in digital format. So there's no excuse for any of you that are here not to get a copy of the book. Just go and fill in that survey, because they'd love to hear from you. Speak to you guys shortly. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.